Hey, hello guys. So this is our first project of our Terraform series, and in this today's video, we are building something like we are deploying the static website on AWS S3 with CloudFront. So this video is going to be complete beginner friendly. Then this video will not be using the advanced concepts about Terraform. We'll be using the complete fundamentals about the Terraform. That is what is resource block, output block, and what are providers, how to configure providers, how the life cycle of the Terraform goes, everything. And we will be deploying a S3 bucket. We will be deploying a static website on AWS S3, and we'll access that static website via the CloudFront, and everything will be automated via Terraform. So the prerequisite for today's video is like you should have AWS CLI installed, and you should have Terraform installed, and you should have a basic understanding about AWS services, that is S3 and CloudFront. And you should have a static website that we will be hosting. And this is the architecture. So how the architecture is like what we will be doing is we will be hosting a static website via the S3. So we will create a S3 bucket, and in that S3 bucket, we will upload the static content of our website. All the static contents like HTML page, CSS files, JS files, everything we will be uploading in that S3 bucket, and we will also be enabling the website hosting feature of the S3 bucket. And we will by default we will be blocking all the public access to our S3 bucket. Means no users will able to access that S3 bucket. Only we will be giving this CDN, that is CloudFront access. That is, we will be creating an IAM policy to this S3 bucket saying that only this CDN will have access to this S3 bucket. So that policy we will be creating again by the Terraform and attaching that policy to this S3. And this is our CDN, and by for this CDN we will get a domain. Whenever the user will hit that domain will redirect to this S3 bucket, and you will get the static website. And this all procedure will be automated by this Terraform. That is the brief overview of what we will be doing. And if you guys are new to my channel, so this is my channel, and I have already made the many more interesting videos previously. That is a complete automation of Jenkins pipeline and EKS project, cloud optimization tools, everything. You guys can take a look out over there. And all the resources for this project, today's project, this GitHub repository and all thing, I will attach this all thing in a description of this video, so you guys can take a look out of there. So without getting late, let's get started. So let's start our project now. So firstly, make sure you have your AWS CLI installed. So how to make sure that? So just type AWS hyphen version. So this will make sure that you have your AWS CLI installed in your PC. And if it not installed, then please install that AWS CLI because it is a prerequisite. And then you connect your AWS account with your terminal. How to do that? That is AWS configure. So you will get your provide your access key and access secret access key, and your account will be configured. And I assume that if you are solving this doing this Terraform project, means you know how to create a secret key and access key ID and configure your terminal. So that part I am not doing here. So just add that steps, and your terminal will be connected to your AWS account. So now let's start our project. So what we are doing is here. So firstly, we will configure our Terraform. That is, we are telling our Terraform to use the provider as AWS. Now, how to get this Terraform provider code and all? You have this documentation over here. I'll provide the link of this documentation in the description. So just take this and add that in your this terraform.tf file. So this will Terraform will connect to this AWS provider, and then next step is to configure that provider. So create a provider.tf file, and in this provider.tf file we'll configure our AWS. Configure means is simply that we are telling our AWS which region to use. Means we are creating a different AWS services. So which at which region those services resources should be created. So that is what we are telling. So I am using the region as AP South one. If you guys need any other region, you guys can use that also. So by this, after this, once the Terraform TF and Terraform provider is created, we will initialize the Terraform in this current folder that we are in. So simply Terraform init. So just simply run this command. So this should initialize the Terraform in your current folder where you are. So here it is initializing. So it is the using AWS as the provider and installing that AWS provider. And once that is done, we'll start creating the resources. So firstly, we'll start creating from AWS S3. So let me explain each resource, what each resource block is doing. So first resource block, in this we are creating the AWS S3 bucket here. And in this resource block, in each S3 bucket, we'll have the features like to enable to host the static website. So but we need to enable that feature. So by this resource block, we are enabling that feature. And in this resource block, we are uploading all the static content inside our AWS. So this is the dist folder of which where our my all the static static content for this project is present. If you guys have any other static content, you guys can place it over here. So let's start from here now. So resource and resource type, and this is the reference for this block. So what the name bucket, the name we are giving here for this bucket, and tag is optional, you guys can give or leave it. And next is a resource, that is AWS S3 bucket website configuration. And in this here we are seeing that to enable that feature to host the static website. So bucket is the, and this is the concept of interpolation, that is AWS S3 bucket, that is this dot portfolio bucket dot id, means this bucket's id. Then this is the concept of interpolation. And whenever we are enabling that feature, we need to give the index.html and error.html. So that is what we are giving here. And next is we are uploading all the static content inside our uh, S3 bucket. That is, we are telling that inside this dist folder, all the files, take those all the files inside this folder. And we folders we have like HTML, CSS, JS, PNG, JPG, all type of content we have, and we are uploading that all content inside our S3 bucket. So once that is done, your S3 bucket will have all the static content inside it. So the next is to set up our cdn.tf. So in this file, we are configuring our CloudFront. That is, these are the all the resources for that. So in this here we are creating a OAC. I will explain what is OAC. And here we are creating the CloudFront distribution. And here we are referencing that distribution. And here we are creating the policy for our S3 bucket. So what is OAC now? The OAC is like, as I told, we are by default we are blocking all the uh, public access to our S3 bucket, and we are only allowing our CDN, that is CloudFront, to access our S3 bucket. So for that we need this OAC, that is Origin Access Control, and telling that only our CDN should have access to that S3 bucket. So that is what this OAC will be used for. And next is we have our CloudFront distribution. We are creating our CDN. So by default, we are telling that index.html is the initial page, root page, and here we are providing the origin, that is domain name, means the bucket for which this CDN should be used. That is this bucket. What the passing the URL of our bucket, and next is the origin ID, that is S3 origin. And here we are associating that OAC that we had created in this here previously. This is the OAC, and again this is the interpolation concept we are using here. This is the concept of interpolation. And next is we are using the default cache behavior, saying that get and head method are only allowed. And next is if any custom error is there, we have this error.html. And geo restriction is none, that we are using not using any geo restriction. and we are using this default certificate as a true. That is why, because we are not using any custom certificate, and we are using the default certificate for our this CDN, and we are passing a tag. And next is this data block, and in this data block we are just referencing our CDN that we had created in our previous step. That is what that data block is. And next is the S3 bucket policy. Here we are creating the S3 bucket policy for this bucket. Again, this is the interpolation, and here JSON code. We are here all is the our policy, that is effect as allow, for which service this policy is, that is CDN, that is CloudFront. And next is what action there is to allow the S3 bucket get object, and the resources give the ARN of our S3 bucket, and condition is for any ARN of our CloudFront distribution, this policy should be applied. That is get object, and this policy will be attached to our S3 bucket. So this is the steps. And next, once these steps are done, so let me explain the output block also. Here is our output.tf. So this is the output block, and this is the reference name for this block. Value we are passing as again interpolation, AWS S3 bucket dot portfolio bucket dot id. Here we'll get the bucket id, and here we'll get the domain name of our URL. And if any user try to access this URL, he will not be having any access because we have blocked that access. And next is we have this CloudFront. Here the CloudFront is CDN, ID of our CDN that we are created, and next is the URL of our CDN that we will be accessing. And once we will access this URL, what we will get, we'll able to access our application, our static website. So next is just simply first how the life cycle of the Terraform is now. So firstly, Terraform validate. So this will validate all the files whether they are any error or not. Everything will be done over here. So we got the success as configuration is valid. And next is we will use the Terraform plan. So this is the blueprint of our infrastructure will look like. Terraform plan will do that step. So plan is to add 21, 0 to change, 0 to destroy. And how our output block will be look. So these are the three steps we have out in output, and these are known after apply. And once this is done, let's simply apply. So by just one single command, complete infrastructure will be created for this. Provide yes. So now our complete infrastructure has been created. So these are the output blocks that we have got. So this is the URL of our bucket, and this is the distribution domain we have, and this is the one we will access being, and we will get the our application over in our browser. So just copy this, and this is our S3 bucket and the distribution ID, and here just type this. So simply you will be accessing your static website. So this is my portfolio website that I had. You guys can take a look at it. So this is how our complete infrastructure has been automated, and you guys can take a look in your console also. All the infrastructure has been created. See, this is my previous bucket that I had. So this is it, and let's see our CDN also. So this is the CDN that we have. This is that created, and this is the domain for that. Now this is the same domain that we have accessed here. So this is how we will automate. We have automated the complete infrastructure, and if you want to destroy everything, you can just. So with this just simple command, complete infrastructure will be destroyed. See, complete infrastructure has been destroyed now. And yeah, that's it for this video. And if you found value from this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, because that really motivate me to make more such content. And I will meet you in some another video. And till then, bye bye.